For over 2 decades, the theatrical cuts of the wizarding world have dictated global pop culture. But beneath the flashing cinematic special effects lies a massive corporate web of narrative cover-ups, omitted plot histories, and character executions. This is the complete compiled forensic record of the original text canon. The audit begins now. We are officially 6 months away from the global premiere of the new HBO Harry Potter series. But before the cameras roll on the winter launch, a major reckoning is underway. Welcome to the Potter Audit. This platform does not exist for standard Hollywood hype or casual movie nostalgia. This is an independent forensic review of the original text canon. Over the next 6 months, we are systematically cataloguing every massive cover-up, structural plot hole, and psychological character assassination committed by the original Warner Brothers films. To prepare for the midnight premiere, we must understand the true, dark reality written on the original pages, rules that Hollywood was too afraid to film. Subscribe for your weekly forensic briefing. The audit begins now. The Deathly Hallows movie ends with Tom Riddle dissolving into majestic, floating ash flakes. But this Hollywood choice completely destroyed the most important philosophical lesson of the entire series. In the books, Voldemort doesn't turn into smoke. He falls to the floor with a mundane, heavy thud. His body is explicitly described as a fragile, ordinary human corpse, completely stripped of its magical terrors. This structural detail was vital to the original lore. By forcing him to die like an ordinary man, the text proved that despite his Horcruxes, he was just a mortal coward. The book notes his body was thrown into a random, unmarked side room, denying him the epic, supernatural exit Hollywood mistakenly gifted him. The casting call for the new HBO Harry Potter series contains a strict, non-negotiable legal directive that Hollywood completely ignored in 2001. Severe characters like Severus Snape and Remus Lupin were written as deeply flawed, traumatized individuals in their early 30s. Hollywood cast brilliant actors who were decades too old, completely altering the psychological dynamic of the staff. The production team is now legally required to match the exact biological timelines established in the books. This means the new series will feel less like a nostalgic fantasy and more like the gritty, generational wartime drama the books actually were. Warner Brothers spent millions of dollars casting and filming Peeves the Poltergeist for the first movie, only to completely delete him from the final theatrical cut. While Hollywood treated him as a minor piece of comic relief, erasing his character completely broke the structural payoff of the final war. In the books, Peeves isn't just a background nuisance. He actively weaponized the castle's architectural defenses against the Death Eaters, dropping lethal traps and driving the invaders into absolute chaos. By cutting him, the movies stripped Hogwarts of its ancient, chaotic, magical soul. The text notes that after Voldemort's fall, Peeves led the surviving students in a triumphant victory song, a vital thematic moment showing that even the castle's madness fought against the dark. The cinematic version of the Battle of Hogwarts prioritized clean wizarding duels and flashing green light spell effects. But the original book text details a chaotic, multi-species slaughter that Hollywood was simply too afraid to film. In the final hours of the siege, the tactical tide was completely turned by a massive, violent cavalry charge of centaurs storming out of the Forbidden Forest, trampling the outer ranks of the Death Eaters. Simultaneously, Creature led the Hogwarts House elves into the thick of the combat, fiercely slicing at the ankles of the dark wizards with heavy silver carving knives. By sanitizing the battle into a standard cinematic face-off, the movies erased the visceral, desperate nature of the resistance. The text records a brutal, grounded street war where every single layer of the magical world had to bleed to survive. The upcoming HBO Harry Potter reboot just secured its official creative leadership, and the choice reveals exactly how dark the new television series will be. Warner Brothers has officially hired Francesca Gardner, the award-winning writer behind prestige dramas like Succession and His Dark Materials, to serve as the master showrunner. While Hollywood treated the early books as whimsical, light-hearted children's movies, HBO's corporate strategy is aiming for a complex, character-driven political drama. By handing the keys to a writer famous for engineering intense familial betrayals and institutional corruption, the network is preparing to adapt the true, unvarnished blueprint of the books. This creative hijack means the original text is finally getting the high-end, slow-burn psychological treatment it always deserved. Long before the Ministry of Magic converted Azkaban into a wizarding prison, the fortress was completely omitted from every historical map. The island was originally built by a maddened dark sorcerer named Ekrizdis, who lured unsuspecting Muggle sailors into his stone fortress to torture them and practice the most horrific strands of dark magic. When the Ministry finally discovered the fortress after his death, they found the structure completely infested with terrifying faceless entities that had literally bred from the raw despair of the victims. These entities were the world's very first Dementors. By keeping this horrifying institutional history buried, the movies stripped the wizarding world of its darkest historical scars, lore that the upcoming HBO series is now perfectly positioned to expose. The original movies often framed the wealthy elite's hatred of the Weasley family as simple class snobbery over their lack of gold. But the text canon details a much deeper political warfare that Hollywood completely sanitized. In pure blood society, the Weasleys were formally branded as blood traitors, not because they were poor, but because Arthur Weasley actively weaponized his ministry position to draft Muggle protection laws. This legal framework directly threatened the ancient, unearned economic privileges of dark aristocratic dynasties like the Malfoys. By reducing this institutional conflict to basic bullying, the films erased the core sociological rebellion of the story. The text reveals that the Weasleys weren't just a quirky, eccentric family. They were dangerous, high-level political subversives fighting a corrupt system from the inside. The forensic files for Volume 1 are officially closed, but the countdown to the winter premiere continues. The data reveals that the text canon holds secrets Hollywood was entirely too terrified to touch. To secure your clearance for next week's intelligence briefings, tap the subscribe button on your screen now. The Audit never sleeps.